If you've ever played a competitive video game like League of Legends or Overwatch, you might have heard the term metagame or meta before. The term is nuanced and means different things depending on context, but for our purposes, let's take it to mean what people think the best way to win a game is. In other words, when I say metagame in this video, I mean what strategies are the most effective, and therefore, how can you expect top players to play the game? In this video, we'll take a look at what the state of the breaking meta is and how we got here. A metagame exists in almost all competitive games, and that goes for competitive breaking as well. Most breakers are aware of the breaking meta to some degree or another, but in this video series, I'd like to try to break down what the one-on-one breaking metagame is and how it was shaped. So first things first, we need to lay out the landscape of what breaking consists of, and I think the best way to do that is to look at the way we judge breaking. Specifically, I want to look at it through the lens of the hour system. The hour system is a judging system that has 5 criteria: foundation, originality, dynamics, execution, and battle. I think that these categories do a good job of covering the breadth of what breaking entails. Of these 5 categories, the current breaking meta strongly favors dynamics and execution. These categories represent the difficulty of moves and clean technique respectively. If we look at the winners of big jams, dancers like Issei or Victor, it's pretty obvious that they excel in these categories. Now, it might seem obvious that, of course, the best dancers are going to have the hardest moves and the cleanest technique. But I'd like to ask the question, why is that? For example, why don't we ever see the dancers with the most original moves or the best musicality win jams? The top 32 of a jam has a wide variety of dancers, but by the semifinals, the remaining dancers always seem to narrow down to these 2 categories, what I'll refer to from now on as meta dancers. This has a lot to do with the way that jams are structured. Dancers who are more focused on originality or musicality find themselves at a severe disadvantage at most big-name jams. In order to understand why, let's take a look at the Silverback Open. In order to win this jam, you need to get through prelims, win a best of 1 in the top 32, and then win best of 3s all the way to the finals. Assuming you win every single round, that's 10 rounds you need to throw, up to a maximum of 14. That's a lot of content, and it's this large number of rounds that's disadvantageous for dancers focusing on originality, musicality, or battle. Let's take a look at Kazuki Rock as an example of originality. Kazuki Rock is one of the most original in the scene, but he rarely places well in one-on-one competitions. His best placement in recent memory was in Silverback 2018, where he beat out Thesis in the top 16 and then lost decidedly to Victor in the top 8. Kazuki Rock's strength lies in his unique and highly original moves, but it's immediately obvious when he runs out of them. This is a problem he faces often when jams require a minimum of 10 rounds. Assuming he throws 3 to 4 moves per round, that's a minimum of 30 original moves that he would need to throw to win an entire jam. This move count requirement isn't unique to original dancers, but it affects them disproportionately compared to those focused on dynamics and execution. Meta dancers generally focus on having a very high level of technical foundation, and their moves are mostly creative transitions or variations between these foundational moves. Dancers like Kazuki Rock, on the other hand, need to come up with entirely new concepts for each move. It's more difficult from a creativity standpoint to come up with a new concept from the ground up, rather than variations on existing moves. As such, it's easier for dynamic dancers to have enough content to get through a jam than creative dancers. Note that this isn't the same thing as saying that it's easier to be a meta dancer by any means. It takes a tremendous amount of skill to have an arsenal of high-level moves, as well as the stamina to throw an entire jam's worth of them. But those who manage to pull it off find themselves at a huge advantage. What determines the metagame isn't what's easiest, it's what's most effective at winning. And having a lot of quality content is what's effective at winning. The requirement of having to throw so many rounds makes it difficult for musical dancers to win as well, which falls under the category of foundation in the hour system. Obviously, musicality relies on the music that's being played. Familiarity with the music, the DJ's style, and even if the dancer likes the song or not. All these things are outside of the dancer's hands. And while it's true that a great dancer can dance to anything, there's a big difference between this clip with Wing Zero and this clip with Issei. Those clips are both amazing beat kills, but Wing Zero is demonstrating a level of musicality that goes far beyond most other dancers, versus Issei, who's just hitting quarter notes, albeit with an insane degree of technique and control. A lot of music being played at jams doesn't give the opportunity for moments like Wing Zero's. There's a lot of factors as to why jam music is the way it is, and that's a topic for maybe another video. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of jam music is pretty similar and follows similar formulas. They try to be hype with telegraph beat hits and avoiding copyright by not using licensed music or samples. This style of music tends not to have a lot to play around with, which makes it difficult for musical dancers to really shine. What complicates this further is that as we approach the end of the jam, the beats become more and more like this. So there's a lot of music that's not really conducive for musical dancers. And with so many rounds, there's a good chance that you'll end up getting a song that just doesn't work at some point. Popping off to the right song can end up being some of the most memorable moments of a jam, but what wins jams isn't making highlight reels, it's being able to deliver consistently throughout your 10 rounds. This demand for consistency, as well as the standardization of the best-of-3 battle format, has pushed many dancers into pre-writing sets to some degree or another. Which brings me to my third point, why battle matters less. Battle, or the art of responding to your opponent, is less prominent these days, and it's because of this pre-written set structure. When dancers come to jams with prepared sets, they're less likely to deviate from them. Should you try to respond to your opponent's round, or should you throw the set that you prepared? The answer isn't obvious, and again it brings me to the point of consistency. In the current meta, even small crashes can mean a lost round, as objective mistakes like that are easy for judges to point to as a reason why someone lost. This is the reason why good execution is mandatory at higher levels of competition, and why pre-written sets are the norm. Throwing a set on the fly is risky, and while there's an opportunity for a big payoff, trying to do that every round introduces more opportunity for mistakes. When the stakes are so high, a lot of dancers opt for what they know. That's why responses to an opponent's round seem to be the exception rather than the norm. So, I've talked about consistency over and over as to what's shaped the breaking meta, but it's obviously not the only factor. It's a complex topic, and my hope is that this video serves as a good starting point for discussion. In the future, I'd like to expand on other factors like judging systems, competition formats, the online community, but I would also love to hear what you think has shaped the meta in the comments. Ultimately, my goal is to start a conversation to help the community understand what the current state of breaking is and how we got here. By understanding exactly where we are, I think it'll let us have a more educated discussion on where we should be heading. Breaking has been on the cusp of serious change lately, between Dizzy's The Plan, Silverback pulling out of the scene, and of course the Olympics. And we as a community should be having discussions on what we want. For example, is it okay that this is the way things are, or do we want something different? If we want to change, how should we go about it? These questions are things that we should be asking, because if we don't ask them and answer them ourselves, they're going to be answered for us. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.